it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. Well, greetings to all of you out there in TV land. My name is Marianne Goulart, and I'm your new host for a brand new show here on this station called Out and About. Now, this show will bring you all of the arts and culture and theater and all the things that make Fall River wonderful. My brain has been full with so many ideas for these shows, and I'm hoping to meet with Miss Fall River, hoping to hear from G20, the barbershop group that we have right in the city, the Little Theater of Fall River. I hope to get to some tattoo parlors to decide whether it is art or not. But anyway, I hope that you'll tune in as the months go by so that you'll be able to see what's happening in Fall River cultural-wise. But right now, being here now, I'm thinking that sometimes when I watch my favorite movie, The Christmas Story, I'm brought back to a wonderful time in Fall River when I was a child, and the streets were full of cars and the sidewalks were full of people, and it was Christmas time in the city, and I'm sure that many of you out there wish that just for a second you could turn the clock back, just like I do. I remember going to McCoys and hearing that little ding, ding, ding of the money tube that would go up when they'd send the money up to get change, and to be spritzed by the wonderful scent of perfume as I entered the foyer of Cherry and Webb, all of those things. And how many of you out there have a picture of you with the McCoys Santa? I do, of course, and I bet a lot of you do also. Well, it's too bad that we can't turn back the clock, but we're very fortunate that in a way we can, because right here in Fall River we have a magical, beautiful, wonderful place where all of that nostalgia and beauty are brought to us every year. And I'm very pleased to have as my guests for this first premiere show, and I should have a tiara because this is my first premiere show, the people who make it all happen at the Fall River Historical Society. I would like to introduce to you Dennis Benet, who is the Assistant Curator of the Historical Society, Kathy Rocket, who is the Special Events and Fundraising Coordinator, and Michael Martins, who is the Curator. Welcome, and I'm so glad that you're here. I know this is the busiest time of the year for you. You're like little elves over there working night and day, doing your magic. So I'm always surprised, because I've been a docent there now for 5 years, and I'm always surprised when people from Fall River come to me and say, oh, I've never been to the Historical Society. What is it like? What's there? So Michael, I'm wondering if you could just share a brief history of the house and how it came into the possession of the Historical Society.
I'd be happy to. The Historical Society was founded in 1921, and the intent was that the organization would collect and preserve artifacts pertaining to the city's history. And unfortunately, the entire collection burned in 1928. The Historical Society did not have a building at the beginning, so we were housed in the Buffington building, which burned in the 1928 fire. So in 1929, the Society began collecting again, and in 1935, Miss Elizabeth Brayton passed away, and her nephew David gave her home on Rock Street to the Historical Society. So the museum has been housed at the Rock Street building since 1937. They moved in 2 years after her death, and have been collecting ever since. It's an amazing collection, pretty much all-encompassing. We have an extensive archival collection, so there are thousands of artifacts in the collection at the museum.
Wonderful. And the Easton Tea Room, did you acquire that at the same time, that building?
No, that came much later, actually. Marion Easton, whose family home it was a very active member of the Historical Society, and at one time a director. And after she passed away, the Society was able to raise the funds publicly to purchase the building from her estate. And 6 years ago, we opened the tea room. It happened that a space became available, and we weren't really sure what to do with it, and we thought, well, let's make a tea room. And literally, we borrowed tables and chairs and linen, and we started this tea room, and it worked out really quite well, and it's taken off from there.
Wonderful. Now, we know that lots of preparations are done in advance of the Christmas season, hours and hours. I don't even think probably that you can keep track of how many hours.
I don't think so.
But I'm wondering myself, who comes up with the ideas for the decorations every year? Who does the actual decorating? And how long really does all that take? Dennis?
Actually, Michael's pretty much the driving force as far as the ideas, but once the idea is thrown out, we all pitch in and throw in our own touch, you know, on every room, every tree. It takes a long time. Generally, we start at the beginning of October. This year we got a late start because we had a trip that the Historical Society sponsored. But usually by the second weekend of October, we're on our way. And it's 7 days a week until we open the Saturday before Thanksgiving.
And is it just you two who do the decorating, or?
Michael and I, Kathy Crone, who has been working with us for several years, is excellent at decorating. She's got a nice touch, and some volunteers also help out. So between all of us, we get it done.
And the elves?
Some elves.
Some elves.
A lot of elves.
Now, when people I'm sure go there every year to see.
We're actually now close to our 4th generation of people coming
Really?
in to see the decorations. It's amazing.
Wonderful.
And we have people who are coming in now with their children who came in as children. So, I mean, it's amazing how long that we've been doing this. I mean, it doesn't seem possible, but
The challenge is that it has to be different every year because of the repeat visitors. So that's where it gets a little sticky sometimes.
Oh, I think one of my favorite trees, honestly, was the one you did with furs. It was in the dining room, and it was all furs, and it was so elegant, and it was just so unusual.
case in point, that was an act of pure desperation. That was in the dining room, and the tree was not titled, but we literally did not know what we were going to do with it. We were right down to the wire. We had to do something, and everything we tried wasn't working. And I finally said to Dennis and Kathy, go to the 3rd floor, go through the costume collection, pull out every fur you can find. And we just did it based on that. So that was pure desperation that worked. Fortunately, it doesn't always, but it did in that case.
We had
genius.
one particular woman that came in, and she was all excited because she said, "Oh my God, I just saw my mink."
We were
She had
using
donated it?
She did.
Literally,
We
she
used
had.
it
It was on the
as a
tree.
spirit.
Well, that's pretty good. That's a neat thing
It
for
was
people
fun.
to
It
see.
was a lot of fun.
I know that when I'm doing tours, if I have relatives come in and they see a portrait of a family member, they're especially thrilled, or something that they've donated. So
Right. You
that's,
know, I think what has happened is that for many families, family photographs and portraits and things, it gets so remote in time that no one's really sure what to do with them. So the Society really is a central repository for a lot of this material, and it's across the board. I mean, we have items that belong to the city's most prominent families, and then we have extensive collections of items from the millworking families. So it is a very all-encompassing collection, which is important. I mean, you have to cover across the board, and we're certainly trying to do that.
another tree that stays in my mind was last year's masked ball, the guillotine tree. How did that idea come
That
out?
was
It's a little macabre, but
Ode to Marie Antoinette, that one was
Yes.
called. And there were over 2,000 white feathers on that tree. That tree took about two weeks to do. Again, we had some of the ornaments and thought we would take it over the top a little bit, and maybe a little bit macabre in some ways, but fun. A big hit. People enjoyed that tree.
they did. And they especially liked on the statue, is it Queen Sophia?
Princess Ida.
The Princess Ida.
Princess Ida. She had a little red ribbon around her neck to
Yes.
indicate that she had a relative who had been guillotined, and it
yes.
talked about the tradition, how they would, if they were at a ball, they would nod to each other to let each other know that they had
they were.
a part of that select society.
That was fun. People didn't know what to make of it, but when it was explained to them, it made a lot of sense.
Sure,
So
sure.
that was a good move.
Are there any surprises that you want to share about this season, or are you keeping everything secret until the big reveal?
No. I think this year there are some interesting things. This is the first year we've done an upside down tree.
An upside down tree.
Upside down, and we've also never done a silver white tree. So the upside down tree is silver white, and it's really a fabulous tree. It's a 9-footer on a tabletop, but very labor intensive. Just the snow, and it's banked with snow. Just the snow took 3 days.
Oh,
Yeah, you have to sculpt it, and it's notoriously difficult to work with, but when you get it right, it looks great. And by far, that has been the most popular tree so far this year.
how did you make it stand if it's upside down? Did you suspend it from the ceiling?
No,
or-
we could not suspend it from the ceiling because the chandelier would have to be removed. So it is on a tree stand. It's manufactured that way.
Oh.
And we get our trees from a great company called Vickerman. They're just top-notch trees. And it's surprising because looking at it, one would think it would not be stable, but in fact, it is quite stable. So, and it is over the top. It looks great.
Now, at one time, did you ever use real trees in the house? People ask me that, and
We
I
did.
say that I think so, but then things changed, the fire codes.
We did use live trees and live decorations for a number of years, but of course the fire codes changed, and we were closed down by the fire department at one point, which was a very good thing because now, as opposed to being open for 2 weeks, we're open for a month and a half. And you can get such a nice quality artificial decoration today that they really do look live.
Now, if our audience out there notices, we have lots of goodies up here, and being a volunteer for 5 years, it's been a losing money operation for me because every time I go in there, I take out my credit card and I buy something at the
Sure.
gift shop because it has the most eclectic and unusual and unique collection of items. And you brought some things in here today. Speaking of McCoys and the McCoys Santa, I bet a lot of people out there will recognize this box and remember what wonderful things are in it. The McCoys Room is a special room by itself
We
now?
do. We have on the second floor. We've expanded the shop this year, actually, and we've changed the name. So it's now the Fall River Historical Society Museum Shop and Boutique, and it really reflects the type of items we're carrying. The McCoys idea came up a few years ago, and through the family that had owned McCoys, we asked if we could reproduce the candy label. And the first year we did that, we were sending candy all over the country. People were buying it nostalgic. You know, it was a great Christmas gift for people who had been in Fall River and had left. That's the 1 pound assortment, and McCoys did sell candy from this company. So we reproduced the labels, and that's the McCoys blue in the bow, and it really is a big hit. The nonpareils.
Oh, is this the best seller I hear, correct?
150 pounds in 5 weeks the first year.
You're kidding me.
No.
The dark chocolate ones
Dark
or
chocolate
the
ones.
The dark
Oh, my
chocolate
goodness.
nonpareil.
And
By
these are
far.
for me now when you
They
leave.
are for you,
yeah?
Mary. Yes, they are. They are.
That would be very, very nice. Yum. So you do sell fruitcake. Does anyone
Well, I'll tell
really
you,
eat fruitcake?
If they don't, they should. That's the fruit, I'll tell you, that's the fruitcake for people who don't think they like fruitcake.
Okay, if you don't think you like fruitcake, this is the one for you.
And I'll tell you, if you purchase that and don't like it, come back and see me, because if you don't like it, there's really something wrong with you. It's fabulous.
Or bring the rest back to us.
It's really very good, and it's made in a small bakery, top-notch ingredients. People don't like fruitcake because they don't know good fruitcake, because most of what you buy is just really lousy. It's all filler. This is just wonderful, and we sell a lot of them every year.
I think everybody has a relative who makes them one, and then they
don't want it,
They
of course.
kind of leave it, and it gets hard, and then they don't feel so bad throwing
Sure,
it out
exactly,
at
throw
the
it
end
away.
because it's so
Exactly,
hard
exactly.
and lousy. I know last month there was a beautiful article in the Herald News about the gift shop, and here's the lovely Diane Mata doing her thing there, and some shoppers, and the very nonpareils you're talking about
Exactly.
there were part of the article. So this was very nice to read, to get people in to the shop. Now, one of my weaknesses, of course, when I take out my credit card is jewelry. And this is a beautiful, beautiful hat pin. But this is a special one because I think Mrs. Claus is going to be wearing this particular hat pin. It's just gorgeous. One of the things, and also she might be wearing these lovely reindeer earrings. I think that the Game of Thrones show inspired you to order these earrings.
It did,
Yeah,
actually. There's
I
a
think
necklace
so.
that matches, and it has a real Game of Thrones look.
It's
so
the House
perfect.
of Baratheon.
Exactly,
Yeah, okay,
exactly.
right here. Very beautiful. And this bracelet, which I've never seen before, I think is going to have to be owned by me. So, very nice. Thank you for
That's-
bringing all this. I know I can keep all this once you leave, which is very, very wonderful. This is gorgeous.
That's a new line. That's Robin
Yeah.
Goodfellow, and it's semi-precious stones, natural pearls, all hand-wired, and really beautifully made. The interesting thing about the Historical Society's shop is that we do not have the overhead that most shops do, because it's run by the museum. We have a lot of volunteers, so things are priced really affordably. So they're considerably less than standard retail. One of our biggest sellers is scarves. This year we have over 300 different designs in the shop.
all different fabrics,
All
silk
different
ones,
fabrics.
or
We've introduced a
cashmere?
men's line this year, so this is a very nice man's scarf in cashmere from Germany, really beautifully
Which one?
made. This one here. We have a whole
Oh,
line
beautiful.
of men's scarves in cashmere, and
Nice.
we sell several hundred every year. So
Very, very nice. I know when people come in, they're also looking for unique glass ornaments
Yes.
when they come into the shop. And generally, there's a whole wall of glass ornaments. Is that the case this year?
it is, and we've added a new Christmas room. We're going to be selling Christmas year-round. This year, over 250 different designs in hand-blown glass.
Wonderful.
And we've brought in some new ones. So obviously for the Downton Abbey fan, we have a whole Downton Abbey line, and of course, who doesn't like Downton Abbey? Some kind of funky stuff too. So Krampus, we introduced Krampus to Fall River last year. He's known as the Devil of Christmas. It's a very old Christmas legend. And of course, Red Sox. So we've got a really great Red Sox ornament. We have a line of those as well. So lots of ornaments.
Excellent. Do you still have a tree that's all glass ornaments?
Oh, we do. We do.
This year?
The large tree in the parlor is a 14-foot tree. Dennis does all the lights on the tree. He's the only person at the society who will do lights because he does them up and down the branches.
Cool.
So you get that depth. If
Yeah.
I had to do it, literally, I would just throw them on. I mean, I want nothing to do with lights. So
How many lights, Dennis, about? Do you have any idea?
Around about 3,000.
3,000 lights
And
on that one
probably-
tree?
Yeah, and probably, what, 1,500?
at least 1,500 glass.
1,500
ornaments, yeah.
ornaments.
All mouth-blown glass.
So you could stand in that room and just
You know, Marianne, people
Look
do.
there.
People will come in and they'll stand there and just look at the trees. And of course, we put them up, so you get kind of tired of looking at them. And they come in and they're mesmerized by these things. So it's wonderful because that's what it's all about, you know.
It always takes my breath away when I walk in for the first time, and I like to just make it the first time that I go to volunteer for the Christmas season, because, and I like to be alone.
Yeah,
It's kind of a
we hear
crazy
that a lot.
thing that I just go in there and it's like, oh, you know, it just takes my breath away every time I go in there, and it brings me back to another place. Actually, I'd like to live in Mrs. Brayton's bedroom upstairs because I get a whole beautiful different feeling being
Sure.
up there, the peacefulness and just the whole calmness of that room, and you realize that time was different then.
Oh, it was.
We received a letter several years ago. We had an evening function, and this man had attended the function, and as it turned out, didn't want to because he had had a horrible day. He just wanted to go home, crash, and just recoup. And in the letter, he told us about, you know, how he felt when he came to the function at the Historical Society. And he said that he was so glad that he had, because he had stepped into another time. And he was operating at a different pace. It was much more relaxed, and it rejuvenated him just being there. So that's the stuff you like to hear.
I feel badly, but having been a teacher, I feel badly that children don't get the same experience about Christmas that I had and that many of us did. Now it's just big box stores or
Of course.
malls. So it's very separate. They don't get that feeling of being part of a shopping community or being
Right.
part of another time. So whenever I get kids in, I like to tell them that if they can imagine what it was like before cell phones and video games and radios and TVs, this is what it would be like,
Right,
and
exactly.
how you need to be still and appreciate it.
It's like
That's one of the reasons people should come to the Historical Society. And you know what we do that is I think very unique to the Fall River Historical Society is the fact that we don't charge admission during the holidays.
Nice.
Most historic homes that you go to throughout New England, probably throughout the country, it's a very lucrative time of the year for them, so they do charge an admission to see the decorations. The board of directors of the society has maintained a philosophy that this is a time to give back to the community. So to thank the community for supporting us all year, we forfeit the admission. So anyone can come to the Historical Society at no charge and see the trees, and it's a great experience. It really is.
What a gift that is. That's a beautiful
It's nice.
gift.
It's a very
to
nice
give.
thing.
And if anyone doesn't go, take advantage of that. You know, it's hard to believe that they wouldn't.
But as you said earlier, I mean, we get a lot of people who come in and say, you know, I've lived in the city all my
Yeah.
life, but I've never been
Never
here.
been here.
And I think it's because you never think of going any place close to home. You always go off somewhere to see things. So, but we're doing a lot more marketing now, and I think targeting some different audiences. So it's all good.
Excellent. Now, Kathy, I know you plan lots of special events with your committee. What kinds of things are happening during the month of December? I know some of them are early in the month, in the middle, but there are some things that go right to the end of the month that we'll talk about as well. So what kind of annual events do you plan every year to happen during the Christmas season?
Well, one of the events that we just recently have started was Sights and Sounds. And that is open to the public. We got a grant from the City of Fall River and the Recreation. And it's free to the public. The children, we have a petting zoo, we have activities, we have a brass band, we have the Mary Dickens carolers. The children love the pony rides are free, the face painting. We have Mr. Santa and Mrs. Claus. We have the Corys singing in the tent. We have Dan Butterworth. So the families can come, young and old. And being a teacher and working in Fall River, I know it's important for the children to have experiences. And a lot of experiences being offered nowadays are expensive.
Sure.
For children to be able to ride on a pony would cost the family quite a bit. But if they come early on December 8th, we'll have the pony rides. So we're looking forward to that. Another very, very popular activity is the Tea with Mrs. Claus. We have Tea with Mrs. Claus. We get little boys and girls. They get all dressed up. And then they have activities. We're also doing something different this year.
A surprise?
We're hoping we're having cookies and coal with Krampus and Claus. So that should be quite a fun activity.
Well, who's Krampus? If people don't know who Krampus is, Michael?
Well, Krampus is a European tradition and actually appeared in Victorian America. And when you see early illustrations of Father Christmas, he's usually followed by this small sort of demon-like figure. And it was the concept of good versus evil. And what Krampus would do is he would reward bad children, and he would reward them by frightening them and having them repent. And then Father Christmas would take over. So it was that Victorian concept of good versus evil. He still appears in many countries in Europe, especially Germany, Holland. He's known as Black Pete. And so it's something that we don't know much about in this country, but is very prevalent in Europe. So we introduced Krampus to Fall River last year, and it went over really very well. So it should
My
be a
son
good
lives
event.
in Germany, and he tells me that during the Christmas parades, Krampus is in the parades, of course,
yes.
and he actually goes to the sides and ropes children, ties them up, throws them over his shoulder, and runs off with them. Then
Sure.
the kids are screaming and kicking. They all know that it's part of
but
the
it's
fun,
all fun.
of course.
It's part of the fun.
But that he's a big,
Sure.
he's a big
in
character
fact, in
there.
Europe, you can purchase. I mean, you can purchase chocolate foil-wrapped Santas in this country. In Europe, you can purchase chocolate foil-wrapped Krampuses.
Bitter chocolate, I guess.
I'm not sure. Actually, I've tried to get them for the shop, but I can't find any
Semi-sweet.
quarter. So exactly.
That sounds like a lot
It'll
of
be fun.
I remember I attended the Sights and Sound Festival last year, and you had living statues, I think you call them.
Yes.
And it was so fascinating because people would go over to them thinking that they were actual statues, and then they would move just a bit, and people were fascinated
Feel
by those.
mesmerized
Do you
by
have
them.
those coming?
We do.
Yes.
We have 3 this year.
We have the Santa, who is very popular.
Yes.
We have a poinsettia, a red poinsettia in an urn. And we also have a blue fairy that's going to go around.
Wonderful. That's wonderful. I know the kids had a great time last year with the face painting and Santa and Mrs. Claus, and you have some acts under a tent. So last year's weather, I think, was a little misty, but then it cleared up. So the tent
were
was
lucky.
a good idea.
It really was a
because,
beautiful day. We were very
people were
fortunate
able
last year.
to get into the tent in the beginning.
And it only
everything.
misted for a few minutes, so it wasn't bad.
And I've attended the Mrs. Claus tea time.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And I know it is such a lovely event. The kids dressed to the nines.
Right, and we're fortunate that we have Mrs. Claus. You know, she's a really busy lady, and it's a major coup for us to get Mrs. Claus every year to the Historical Society.
I imagine it's cookie time.
Well,
for
and there are
Mrs.
lots of
Claus.
imposters out there, but we have the real one.
You
so
have the real one.
Of course
I can
we do. I mean, this
imagine
is the
that
Historical Society.
she
We're
must
not going to
love
settle for
going there,
anything less.
too.
Oh, she does. She does.
She
does.
really must.
And her husband's going to be appearing this year as well. So with Krampus. So
Yeah.
Very,
it's
very
gonna
nice.
be a
Oh, I don't
family thing.
know. I don't know about how that's going to work out.
It's going to be
Santa and
wonderful.
Krampus in the same
It's
room.
going to be wonderful.
Oh,
Well,
very.
they kind of work hand in hand, Marianne. I mean, come on, you know.
But I know that at the tea, for example, it's multi-generational.
Oh, definitely.
I see grandmas and
Yes,
grandpas and
yeah.
moms and dads and the
Yeah.
kids all
Sure.
together for a very special event. It's another way to make memories
Yeah.
and to have a little bit of that beautiful nostalgia
Sure,
spirit
and
of
in many
Christmas.
cases, you'll have a little girl with 3 adults. You know, I think we have more adults than children in some cases
Oh, that
because
would
they
be
want to see
my
the
family.
kids all dressed up. Exactly. They want to see the kids all dressed up, and they have a lot of fun. So
Beautiful photo op too,
Oh,
because
definitely.
then they can go over to the house. I think,
Right.
correct?
Yes, they can.
After the
They
tea,
can.
and they can take photographs with Mrs. Claus
Right.
in that
Right.
beautiful room.
well, and she sings and dances and tells stories, and you know, she's like
it's
the Pied
wonderful.
Piper. so-
It's probably not like anything they can experience in the area. That
Right.
kind of event. I don't.
Well, I think it's definitely something unique to
Unique, yeah,
the society.
sure.
It is.
I
Because
would-
of the space. I mean, the space makes it unique. And then having Mrs. Claus. I mean, other people don't have her. So
This is true.
You
The
know.
real
Also,
one.
I just want to put a plug in for the artists in this area. We have artists in the area that donate pieces of work that we auction off. It's become one of our bigger fundraisers during this season, and it is worth it for people in Fall River just to come to see what kind of artists are out there and what they have to offer. The artwork we have this season is wonderful.
So that's one of the ongoing events, right, to the end of the month? What?
Yes.
Yes, the
so you
show
have
is-
the open house until the end of the month.
The open house runs until the end of the month. The show Kathy was talking about is called Palette Pictures.
Palette pictures.
And it's a silent auction, so there's a bidding process. People can come in and bid. The paintings are on display in the gallery, but we also have jewelry and pottery and across the board some really wonderful things.
That's
Excellent.
through the 22nd of the month.
Through the 22nd,
Yes.
but the paintings will stay up until the end of the month?
Actually, the bidding ends on the 22nd, so if people have bid on them as Christmas gifts, they can claim their paintings
Before
but
Christmas.
at
Yeah,
that
the
point
first year
to
we
have them
did it
before
after Christmas, and people wanted to give it as Christmas
Oh, I
gifts,
see.
and so
okay,
we.
so it's a silent auction.
Right.
And tea time goes in the tea room, the Easton Tea Room
Right through
goes
the last weekend of the year, and we have tea Saturdays and Sundays from 12 to 5, reservations on the hour, 12, 1, 2, 3, and 4 o'clock. And reservations are not required. We do take walk-ins, but I would recommend reservations because it does get very busy. It's surprising the number of people who come in to take tea, and they've made a tradition of it.
What is, you know, I have to be honest, I've never had high tea.
You've never had high tea?
No,
Really?
I have not.
That's funny.
What's in a high tea, actually? Is it
A high tea
a
tradition.
grinder and
No,
a grinder and a
quite,
Coke?
not
What
quite.
is it?
You might get that in some tea rooms, but you won't get that from us. Traditionally, high tea will have savories and we'll have sweets. So it's a full course tea. Ours is a 3-course tea. We start with tea. We have 8 different selections. And then the tea sandwich is first. Scones are the second course with clotted cream that we have brought in from an importer in New York. So it is English clotted cream. And then the dessert course. So it's a lengthy tea. It takes at least an hour. Most people take food home. The portions are very small, but it's very rich because of all the cream.
Sure.
The scones, there's a huge debate as to which scones are the best, date or ginger. And some people love date, and then there are others that love the ginger. So,
And what are you partial to?
oh, the ginger by
Ginger.
far. And the
Ginger.
date are wonderful, but the ginger
Dennis,
are really good.
Ginger or date?
Date.
Yeah, so you say
So we have a conflict
odd
right
man
here.
out. So well, you'll have to be the
I'll have
deciding
to be
factor.
the, yes, I'll have to be the one to break the tie.
And what's unique about our tea is that everybody gets their own teapot.
Oh.
But
Which,
most tea rooms will serve 1 tea per table. So in our case, if we have a party of 6, they each have their own pot, so everyone can have different tea, and of course it's unlimited tea. So
It's a bottomless pot. You can change the blend with every course if you like.
So people can go on weekends, but how about if there was a group of folks who wanted to go another time? Could they make special reservations
Of
for
course.
a special?
we do a lot of private
Party,
parties.
like-
Throughout the year, we do bridal showers and baby showers and birthday parties and things. But during the holidays, we have a lot of groups that come in, and they'll come in for either daytime or evening. We do have a 25 or more as a limit
Yeah.
for a private party. So,
Very
but they're nice events.
So, I thank you very much for coming, and I think that the future is very bright. I know this past summer you did some wonderful concerts outdoors, and that again was just a sparkling night
They were great events.
with all of the candlelight, and I hope that's going to come up. And I think that the history of our city is in good hands.
Well, thank you.
Knowing and meeting you people and the efforts that you put forward. And I know you're always fearless in planning things, which impresses me so much. You'll tell me something that you're planning to do, and I'll say, oh, you're doing that next year? And then
No, we're doing
you'll
it in
say,
2
no,
weeks.
no, it's just in 2 weeks, or it's
Exactly.
in a month. And I say, what? Well, what do you mean? You can't do, how are you going to get that together? You know,
But we usually do.
but you're
so.
fearless in
Well,
all
we
of your
try to be,
planning and
know.
fundraising and your adventures. And I think that's one thing that makes the Historical Society such a special and successful place. And I thank you.
thank you.
I
Thank
thank
you.
you
Thank you.
so
Thank
much
you for
for
having
doing
us.
everything
Thank
that you do and for just being there for the city and keeping the history and the culture and the nostalgia and the beauty alive. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Marianne.
Thanks, Mary.
And to all of you out there, I'm the Merry Christmas type of person. So if I see you on the streets, I'll be saying Merry Christmas. But whatever day you celebrate, whether it's Hanukkah or Kwanzaa or Christmas, may your days be merry and bright. So until the next time, take care. Cheers.